Greetings and salutations, and welcome back, friends. You know, there's an old saying that life is what happens when you're busy making plans, and I plan to do an entirely different show today. However, sometimes things come on my radar that I think are so important that they need to be addressed as quickly as possible. And so today's show is going to be a detour of sorts, and we're going to call it Truth Seeker's Special Report: Recent Bombshells About Emery Smith Being Exposed as a Fraud and a Liar. Imagine that. Friends, for those that don't know, Emery Smith has made many fantastical claims, including autopsying alien tissue samples at a secret base. He's also, at various times, I found at least several instances of him claiming that he was a NASA astronaut and was scheduled to go and work on the International Space Station, but it just didn't work out for him. These claims are ridiculous, and he's an idiot for making claims like, I was a NASA astronaut. Doesn't he know the very, very small amount of people who can make the claim of being a NASA astronaut? It's a tiny, tiny club, Emery Smith. And you need to be an extremely well-educated person. Near as I could tell, you only went to high school. And last I checked, NASA doesn't just let people with a high school diploma work on the International Space Station. But that hasn't stopped Emery Smith from making ridiculous claims like, I was a NASA astronaut. It's laughable, the claims that this person makes. He's been involved in various, let's just say, run-ins with the law, and leave it at that. He was once sued for basically embezzling money from funds from the company, one of the companies that he worked for or with. That company went on to remove him from their website and make a statement that he was not a representative of their company any longer. There have been various claims made by he and sometimes partner in crime, David Wilcock, to the effect, basically that the deep state was trying to silence Emery Smith and were attacking him and killing his dog and all manner of crazy, crazy claims. One of those events also included a GoFundMe. Imagine that, a GoFundMe to help Emery Smith. This is yet another GoFundMe where the information presented in the GoFundMe was fraudulent and raised a significant amount of money. Yet another GoFundMe scam that David Wilcock was involved with or helped promote. I find that a little concerning. After all, Mr. Wilcock has not been prosecuted for the Pete Peterson GoFundMe, which was a scam, and every line in that GoFundMe could be proven to be factually inaccurate. Every line in the Pete Peterson GoFundMe was a lie. Now we have substantial and supportive proof that David Wilcock lied around this GoFundMe to help Emery Smith. And there are multiple sources of information that can confirm that Emery Smith, David Wilcock, whoever started this GoFundMe, was not using factually correct information when they were asking people for money. It goes on and on with these clowns. They think that they can just lie in a GoFundMe and keep the money. Tens of thousands of dollars raised based on fake information presented in the GoFundMe text body. That's called fraud, you two idiots. It's called fraud. You don't get to lie about the reason for the GoFundMe and then just keep all the money. This is not legal or moral or ethical. But these are the kind of things that these clowns are often involved in. So recently, a, a, a really good insider came forward with the real story on Emery Smith and the various shenanigans that he's been involved in. This gentleman knew him very well, was there for these events that David Wilcock and Emery Smith concocted and faked in order to, I suppose, garner sympathy and get donations from stupid people. This person was there for those events. This person was there, had a good relationship, apparently, from what I've heard, with Emery Smith for quite some time. And this person's daughter was Emery Smith's girlfriend. Someone told me fiance for a while. So, does this guy have an axe to grind? Maybe, but I think that the information that he's presenting is accurate based on other sources, which sort of corroborate some of the story that this gentleman is telling. I thought that we could dispense with our usual show format, and basically we're just going to have a watch party and watch Emery Smith's ass get handed to him by his one-time friend, and I guess almost maybe was going to be his father-in-law. Friends, the revelations are everything that you suspected about Emery Smith being a fraud, right? And we have other sources besides this gentleman that confirm and corroborate a lot of this information that he is presenting. So I thought we would basically just have this watch party, listen to this gentleman's testimony, and watch Emery Smith and David Wilcock's asses get collectively handed to them for both of them being lying fraudster assholes. Do you think, David Wilcock and Emery Smith, that nobody is ever going to come forward and tell everybody about all these scams you guys are running, about what frauds and liars and fucking fairy tale hucksters you assholes are? Of course people are going to. And, this gentleman, near as I can tell, I'm no expert, that's coming forward with this information is not a very well-known voice in the so-called UFO or disclosure community. So I thought it would be appropriate if we sort of amplify his attempt to get this information out to people who are being scammed, who are being duped by both Emery Smith and David Wilcock. I'm going to do my part, and we're going to play his testimony on our show here and sort of do this watch party. And then we're going to discuss it. I'm not sure. He's got a non-monetized YouTube channel with, not a lot of subscribers, but or views, but he was actually there for these events. I consider him a good source. And we're going to do our part to help spread this information and prevent more victims from being taken advantage of by people like Emery Smith and David Wilcock. So I'm going to cite fair use. Like I said, it's a non-monetized channel. I don't think this gentleman would mind, but I'm going to cite fair use. We're going to be discussing and critiquing the information that he presents. We're going to be educating the public about, let's just say, less than scrupulous UFO messiahs, alien messiahs, I suppose, who present themselves as being some sort of government former insider or whistleblower, right? We're going to educate the public so that they don't get taken advantage of and scammed or, ripped off by these fraudsters. So we're citing fair use in order to educate the public. And this is kind of a long video. I'm not sure if we're going to skip around, but I skipped the first 5 minutes where he just tells the story of how he met Emery Smith and a few other things. You can watch the entire video yourself, but we're going to sample most of it. And this is called Emery Smith Exposed 1. And this gentleman has a whole bunch of videos, but I thought that the first one would be most appropriate for us to start with. And not only that, most of the information that I'm interested in as to David Wilcock's participation in another GoFundMe scam, this time with Emery Smith, is what I was most interested in. So this is the one that honestly I think has the best information. Let's share this. I'm going to cite fair use. We're educating the public. And again, we're just going to sort of have a watch party here because this is so good that people need to hear this stuff. People need to know the truth behind some of these fraudsters. And here's an insider, good, close friend, right? Knew him very well. Let's get into it, friends. Okay.
We ended up making the trip over to Fort Myers.
You know what? 1 second, friends. I'm going to stop that and do it again just to make sure that I, yes, indeed, click the stupid share audio. Okay. Here we are.
To a small industrial park. It was about a 3-hour drive from where we lived over in Stewart, Florida. We pulled up, and at the same time, Emery had pulled up in a black Range Rover. Big fan of those. Loves the earth, but drives a Range Rover and has for years. So we introduced ourselves. We went in, and the space he was renting at the time was looked like a low-grade medical showroom that was fairly dirty, disorganized, but had some interesting equipment, some stem cell equipment, centrifuge. I later found out all these were basically on loan, and the whole thing was basically an enormous front, and we'll get into that in later videos.
Emery Smith has famously been involved in a few different biotech companies and startups. How a guy with just a high school education is somehow an expert in medical matters and biotechnology is beyond me, but it is what it is.
And there are going to be many, dealing with everything from all of the phony front companies he set up to his dealings with Emsite, to all the court documentation.
Emsite's a company that he was sued by.
And Ken Mather, Emsite's attorney. I have every document, including all of the exhibits, that I will be linking in that video to download for you to read, including the final summary judgment, where Emery was found to have misappropriated a significant amount of money. And by that, I mean it's over several $1 million. In any event, turning back to Fort Myers in the initial meeting, we asked Emery about the photograph of the light being, which I had brought, and he explained that it was something that he had photographed, which I found improbable. But he began talking about his involvement with CSETI and Greer, and we had all watched the 2001 Project Disclosure held at the National Press Club.
It's for those that don't know, Emery Smith was once heavily involved with Stephen Greer's disclosure movement and CE5 initiative. But near as I can tell, or have heard from several different sources, he was a bodyguard to Stephen Greer. Why does Stephen Greer need bodyguards? I don't know, but okay.
I introduced my children to that at a very young age, which was really, frankly, a remarkable event. I found it highly credible. Not a fan of Stephen Greer whatsoever, but I found that event was indeed extraordinary. So we discussed that. We discussed ufology. Emery did not have a good knowledge or even a basic knowledge of the history of ufology at all. Almost none. It was rather strange to me as a historian and researcher of ufology. Deep research, deep and heavy research. I have a pretty extensive knowledge about a lot of it. In fact, most of it. And I always search for the facts and what could be documented and what could be proven.
Interesting that he did not
We
have a
talked
good
lot
knowledge
about
of ufology.
Majestic 12. He told me he was a payload specialist on the space shuttle at that point in time, which is simply untrue. There are later instances where he claimed to be a NASA astronaut, another, frankly, just complete lie. I have audio recordings of that, as well as, being scheduled to go up and work on the ISS. Not a chance.
I contacted a media relations person at NASA to try to verify or bust Emery Smith's claims. They never got back to me. I made 4 or 5 different attempts to go to NASA and say, was this guy a NASA astronaut? And I have been unable to get an answer from NASA, but I think that claim is totally ridiculous, especially coming from somebody that only has a high school diploma.
Emery's education is limited to a high school diploma.
Oh, there we have it.
And his DD-214 shows he was released as an E6. If you don't know what that is, go ahead and research it yourself, and you'll see that, he was a grunt, basically.
Yeah, that's a low rank. He was a nobody in the military, basically.
Fort Myers. We talked and talked and talked about different experiences he'd had, and my children's friends were very curious about their experiences and asked him a lot of questions. And this went on for probably an hour and a half, 2 hours. And there was a woman there. Her name was Angel. And there's a long history of misappropriation of funds that relates to her as well, and we'll get into that later on. But Angel Oliphant was her name. Rather unique looking individual, almost looked extraterrestrial. But in any regard, at the end of this exchange of ideas, Emery pulled out and this was the first time I'd ever seen this, a SLA, which is stereolithography. It's a very primitive form of 3D printing. I know because I used to do it in the early 90s using Alias Auto Studio and Silicon Graphics workstations. And I would send
SGI workstations
motors where they would output it into a physical 3D form. Now, again, this was a very primitive technology back then that we had access to, but the files were called SLA, stereolithography. And at the time I was working in New York and would output all different sorts of different things, namely fragrance bottles, Bath and Body Works bottles, beauty products bottles, different sculptures. And I knew the technology very well, and I knew that this Atacama SLA, or 3D print of this being, was exactly that. It had the same amber polymer that we always used. And you have to remember, well, you don't have to remember, but you should know back then, really the axes were limited back then. So most of the products I had to hand sand and finish myself when they came back because they were fairly rough. And the reason why was because there was a vat of polymer, a laser spun around and varied its amplitude to coagulate the polymer. So I took a look at it. We passed it around. It, to me, looked like a mummy. It was very small. It's not big at all.
Yeah, and again, there have been various claims about this Amacana humanoid, and the DNA was analyzed and found to just be a deformed human. Stephen Greer, however, after making, I don't know, millions on the documentary, which conveniently, at the end of the documentary, they're just going to start the DNA to prove that it's an alien. I believe that he knew that it was human. And, you know, if you include the information that the DNA is human in your movie, it's not going to sell very much. So you got to cut that part out. But shortly after the movie, it's revealed that that so-called alien is simply a deformed human.
It had an oblong head that came to a point, and it looked rather bizarre. It really did. It looked rather strange. It did not look of this earth. But there are other instances where things like this have appeared. Richard Dolan got caught in the trap back there in Mexico.
The Roswell slides, yeah.
8 years ago, where they tried to pass off a mummified infant as some, you know, extraterrestrial being, when it was clearly labeled in the case that it was a mummified human. And they built an entire event around that and tried to raise millions of dollars, and it was just a stain on the ufology community.
And we've covered that recently.
It was just a rush for money. You know, it was a marketing exercise gone awry, with you know, a fantastic backstory and all sorts of people supporting, including Dolan, who began his career as a librarian, believe it or not.
Dolan's a librarian.
And
not that there's anything wrong with being a librarian,
but some interesting work over the years. But I found the Atacama being to be interesting, as did my children, who were very young at that age. They were 14, and well, my daughter and her friends, they were 14 and 16. The three of them that were there, two of them were 14, one of them was 16. And so it created a pretty big buzz, and with that, we kind of checked out and drove home the 3 hours. And of course, that ride home was fascinating. And that was where it all frankly began. Emery somehow was able to get my daughter's email and stayed in contact for her over the next 3 years, and asked her not to divulge to myself and my wife that he was in contact with her. And this went on and on and on and on and on. And apparently he had said some things that were disparaging about my wife and I, and really planted the seed in my daughter's mind that we were not good parents, and that she would probably be better off with him. And he continued to do this for years. And
that's a real problem. I'm not sure if you caught it, but I believe that he said that the two daughters that he took with him are 14 and 16. So what is a grown man doing, emailing, if this is the case, an underage girl, and disparaging her parents?
Found this all out much later, but yeah, pretty interesting. When I discovered this, I was, of course, upset. But he fundamentally predated on my daughter for years and years and years, until he finally ended up dating her. And they spent 4 years together. And the shit show that unraveled from all of that and what I saw is almost beyond belief. But it's all true. And with that, we kick off the very beginning of the Emery Smith disclosure, or project disclosure, or cosmic disclosure, or cosmic tomfoolery, or clownery, or whatever you want to call it.
I call it the Cosmic Con. It's the Cosmic Con, and Emery Smith went all chips in on it.
It's all fundamentally fraud and a bunch of lies that will shock and amaze you, I suppose. And I would anticipate there will probably end up being anywhere from 10 to 12 videos in this series at minimum.
He's got a lot to cover, this insider who was there for these events. And I, for one, applaud him for putting this information out in the public so that people get the real backstage view of this shit show and shenanigans that happens behind the scenes of these cosmic con men.
Plus a lot of supporting videos and audio files and documentation leading up to this past, well, really um, June, when Emery skedaddled. I had the Boulder Police, the Boulder Drug Task Force, the FBI, and the IRS after him for a lot of reasons that will become clear. Um, and he left the state, got somehow managed to cheat on his probation and then finally get permission, but ended up having an affair on my daughter with a woman by the name of Darla, and ended up moving to Las Vegas, to North Las Vegas, to live with Darla and her mother because he's, due to his credit score and finances, unable to rent a house or dwelling. And to this day now, currently, as of August 18th, 2020, is now back out in Los Angeles, teamed up with his good buddy, Dave Wilcock, working on the next big moneymaker.
Yeah, and I just find it very interesting that a secret government whistleblower is in such dire financial constraints that he can't even rent an apartment for himself. So he has to go live with some woman and her mother. That'll teach you, Cosmic Cons. It's not all cash and free money. You know, these guys are not doing well, some of them. They pretend that they're doing great, but I think that a lot of them are in dire financial straits, which is why, you know, they got to keep rolling on with the next big thing, right? Emery Smith has recently been selling Q&A sessions. You can ask him some questions behind a paywall. Great.
Which probably will not happen. Wilcock has made a number of mistakes since Gaia, continues to make mistakes. He's smart, well-spoken, but not intelligent.
Well, he claims that he has 180 IQ, though. How could he not be intelligent with a 180 IQ?
And Emery predates on that as well and has used Dave over the course of the 8 or 9 years he's known him to fundraise using David's base. And there are some fascinating stories regarding that as well. And I was there for every one of those instances. Wilcox highlighted the death of Emery's dog, Beowulf, as being overly dramatized into some sort of black op to kill Emery and his dog. It's simply not true. I was there. Emery was drunk, went out for a drive, let his dog out on the highway, and the dog was hit by a semi and killed.
So there's the truth behind one ridiculous whopper of a lie that David Wilcock told about Emery Smith being a victim of the deep state. They're going to try to silence him, and they shot and killed his dog. No, Emery Smith got drunk, let his dog out on the highway, and it was hit by a truck. Yeah. David Wilcock, you're busted lying again, you asshole. How many times are you going to get caught lying through your fucking fake teeth?
Absolutely tragic, but you don't wish that on anyone, but it was his fault. As it relates to Wilcock's embellishment of the Mountain Air event where black agents came into Emery's home, invaded it, cut open the walls, left a bullet behind as a message, and yada yada. Nope, I was there. I paid the last month's rent on that house and was living there when this went down. And I can tell you absolutely none of that is true. And that round is from an FN Herstall 57. It's an SS 195 round. I know because Emery had to pawn his 257s to be able to survive.
So a secret government whistleblower has to pawn his personal gun or guns just to survive. And by the way, all of this fake Emery Smith getting attacked by the deep state and his house invaded and they left a bullet, all of that is detailed on David Wilcock's idiot blog, right? So it's all out there. David Wilcock, you just lied and made all that shit up? Amazing, David Wilcock. I would have never guessed that you just make shit up.
And nope, all false. That event was used to raise like $50,000 to $70,000 through PayPal, using Wilcock's base to help get Emery back on his feet because he was dead ass broke.
Yeah, I guess I was incorrect. It was not. It may not have been a GoFundMe that they did raised all of this money, $50,000 to $60,000, but PayPal donations. So I'm not sure that that it's legal. Just as it's not legal to start a GoFundMe based on lies, I don't think you can ask for PayPal donations based on a bunch of lies and just keep all the money. That would be fraud.
I know. I was there. There was another incident at that time that involved Emery borrowing initially a credit card from one of the people he was working with at a site out there that was involved in an archaeological dig northeast of Mountain Air that was reported or reputed to have a lot of gold on the site. Now, there geologically is no gold in New Mexico, but there was a fantastical story about it. And it was interesting. My daughter worked with a gentleman by the name of Dr. Bakhtar, and she helped him run the ground penetrating radar. And there were some interesting things they found, but none of it was ever recovered. And Emery was kicked out of the program and fired summarily by a gentleman by the name of Scott, who was heading up the program for a gentleman who had funded it all. And it was fascinating. The other incident that sticks out in my mind with regard to, well, there are two actually, and we'll cover these in detail, was the car accident up off Old Topanga Canyon where black agents had apparently rammed Emery and tried to kill him. Nope, drunk. Read the police report, was there. His fault. Yep, his fault. Left the state.
So it wasn't the Men in Black. It was just him getting drunk.
Unquote, a
Great
energy
Emery Smith.
To a billionaire who lived up there and was running a scientific program. And of course, that didn't pan out either. And left in ill repute and fled the state, basically, and owed about 90 grand on the Range Rover that he had and left it in a driveway on Old Topanga Canyon. Yeah. Moving on, the next event that Wilcock overly dramatized was the Palm Springs incident where Emery was reputedly poisoned or made sick or, in ill health or, oh, bullshit. He'd gone on like a 5-day bender of just insane alcoholism and drug abuse. And, I sat him down and said, dude, you're going to kill yourself if you keep this up. You have to stop doing what you're doing. I'm concerned.
This is another one of those events that David Wilcock told this huge whopper of lies about this so-called event where David Wilcock claimed that the Men in Black or the Deep State had poisoned him. Massive attack against Emery Smith for being a whistleblower. And I found this and used it. This is from, I'm going to share my screen here. This is from Wilcock's website. So another fake story to, I suppose, garner sympathy and get PayPal donations that was told by David Wilcock. ET autopsy insider Emery Smith hit with massive attack after coming forward. And look, there's a picture of him in a hospital. It must be true. No, friends. Emery Smith is an alcoholic, and he went on a 5-day drug and alcohol bender. That's what landed him in the hospital. You asshole, David Wilcock, not the Men in Black. He did drugs and drank too much, got alcohol poisoning, and ended up in the hospital. You fucking lying asshole, lying through your fake teeth. Ridiculous. All right, we're going to get back to the testimony of this gentleman. And remember, friends, this is just his first video on this. And look at all of this information that we're getting, right? Look at all this information. Look at all of these revelations. We're finding out that David Wilcock just made all that shit up because this person was there.
For my daughter, I'm concerned for you. You know, this is not how you behave. It's the only time in 10 years I've ever seen him break down and cry and admit what a total douche he is about himself.
You call him a douche?
But then, you know, leopards and spots. Back to the old Emery. Right on back. Well, he wasn't sick. He'd given himself alcohol. Well, he was sick, but he wasn't sick from what Wilcock had reported. It was alcohol poisoning and dehydration, and another small event came out of that, which was pretty mindless. And I don't know what drama Wilcock decided was worth there, but reported that his dog was stolen. Now, this was his other dog, Raven. Nope. Drunk again.
Drunk again, Emery Smith, you asshole.
Park not far from our house in Palm Springs. And it ran away. And my wife ended up finding it through Facebook. And next door neighbor tracked it down. We went and picked it up, returned it to Emery.
Only David Wilcock could turn a lost dog into a story about the cabal and the deep state and the men in black coming and attacking Emery Smith and stealing his dog from him. Come on, David Wilcock. You got to try harder, you asshole, because there were people that were there. This person is a firsthand witness to that actual event, and he's telling us the truth, and you made up a bunch of bullshit lies to promote this fake narrative that Emery Smith is some kind of top secret government whistleblower and he's getting attacked by the deep state. It's bullshit, David Wilcock, you asshole.
And another lie, you know, just in the saga of what Wilcock would disclose as his friend, deep black project friend, Paul. Well, Paul is Emery, and it's all frankly just a bunch of BS.
Yeah, so every time David Wilcock mentions his top secret whistleblower government insider, he was really talking about Emery Smith, but didn't want to say Emery Smith for some reason, because he likes to attribute whatever fantastical stories that he wants to anonymous sources. You asshole.
I know. I was there. Lie after lie after lie after lie. And most of it was used to raise money for Emery. Through Wilcock's base. And it's just wrong on every level. And this is really just the beginning of it all. So I'll give you a little taste of what's coming, including all of the M-Site court documents where Emery pilfered just insane amounts of money.
Those court documents are public record, and anybody can search for and find them. I did, and they are quite revealing about the character of one Emery Smith and the past problems that he has had with his business relationships.
Used shell companies all over Florida, which I have documented, never paid taxes, were opened and closed within the space of a year or two, and just fronts. And then a number of women, because he's very good at predating on women, he's borrowed a lot of money from. One Deborah over $130,000, never paid her back, let her on, they had an affair. And then another Barbara for $90,000, and it just goes on and on and on and on. But yeah. Got some choice home movies too of Emery wasted out of his mind after 14 and 17-day benders. And then the event where he kidnapped my daughter as we were coming to move her out. This is how utterly codependent he is. And then all of the physical abuse, the black eyes, the bruises, the spouse beating. Yep, he's a spouse beater too.
Wow.
Hard to imagine, but all documented.
How love and light. These are the light and love people beating up their women. Great.
Well, that's enough for this round. Hopefully, I've laid the groundwork for what's to come. And you pay attention and follow the facts because they're out there. And I don't want this to become something negative because I'm all about being kind and compassionate to one another. But this human being has predated on people in such nefarious ways that he's a danger, not only to himself, but to others. In every sense of the word, he's a hazardous human being, very toxic, and someone who should be avoided and exposed for this toxicity. And as a father whose daughter was routinely abused by him and then left with nothing, including $8,000 debt on a bicycle Emery had her buy to establish credit and then stole the bike.
He stole a bicycle.
Yeah, can't let that go. Can't let that go. And others need to be warned. And there are enough people in the community that are well aware of this that hopefully they'll start coming forward as well.
Wow.
That's enough for today. You guys have a great one. Be safe, be kind,
Be kind,
and smile. Yeah, things aren't great. That's for certain. But they're not going to get a whole lot better either. We're in a big mess, and we'll get through it somehow. It won't be ideal, but we'll survive. We'll adapt. That's it. Have a great one. I'll see you tomorrow.
Great. So that's our Emery Smith Insider. And you can find this on YouTube. It's called Points on the Curve. And this, my friends, is just the first in a series of many videos that this gentleman is making exposing the actual and real truth behind one Emery Smith. And along the way, destroying the fake bullshit stories that David Wilcock has been telling about Emery Smith for years and years. So here we have more than ample evidence that David Wilcock is just making shit up about Emery Smith. We have more than ample evidence that Emery Smith is not who he says he is or claims to be. It's gold. If you ask me, this is gold. This is great to have somebody that was that close to Mr. Emery Smith tell the behind-the-scenes story of what actually happened when David Wilcock was making all of these ridiculous claims. So once again, David Wilcock busted lying through his fake teeth. It's gold, friends. It's gold. And you too can go read the bullshit fake stories on David Wilcock's website about Emery Smith. Just Google Emery Smith, David Wilcock website or David Wilcock blog, and you will find all of these instances where David Wilcock is claiming the deep state and the men in black are attacking him and poisoning him. He may have been poisoned, right? They killed his dog. They stole his other dog. It's all fake. It's all fake. And a lot of these events can be attributed, sadly, I suppose, to Emery Smith's problems with drug and alcohol abuse. And, I just wanted to say, I would not wish the hell of that kind of a life, being an addict, on anyone. And if my hope is that he cleans up and gets some help for his substance abuse issues, because these may be the source of a lot of his problems. I for one, hope that he finds help for his substance abuse, issues, because they can create hell. They can create hell. I am going to turn my attention to the live chat, and we'll take questions and comments from the live chat. If you have questions or comments for me, please do put them in all caps. Collie Armstrong, Truth Seekers and Paranormal Hood restore my faith in humanity. I've made some misjudgments in this field, but the more you research, the more it becomes clear. I'm going to join Jiggy in a small sig. Well, thank you, Mr. Armstrong. I appreciate that. The PayPal link to save Emery is still active on Wilcock's blog. Yeah, they're still taking donations, Vanessa Thor, for fake shit that never happened. Still taking donations. How are these guys not criminally prosecuted for this shit? Like I said, these guys go right to the edge of what's legal. They play in these gray areas. How much shit, fake shit, can we say and get away with and take people's money for it? It's ridiculous that they're allowed to continue in that. Why don't you take that down? David Wilcock, why don't you apologize for lying to everyone about all these events surrounding Emery Smith that never happened? We have proof now. And it's not just this gentleman. For those that don't know or know me, I generally won't run with the story unless I have multiple sources and corroborating evidence. And in this case, I do. Yeah, so it is what it is, friends. But David Wilcock, you should at least apologize for lying to everybody and making people feel sorry for him and donate their hard-earned money to a lie. It's a lie, David Wilcock. You're caught again, busted dead to rights, lying and making shit up about Emery Smith, you asshole. How many times are you going to get caught with your fucking pants down, David Wilcock, you asshole? How many times are you going to scam people for money or tell people they got to donate to one of your fucking fake whistleblowers because the government is out to get them? That's the narrative. You did it with Pete Peterson. You did it with this Emery Smith. I'm pretty sure that he's going to take donations for Daniel Brinkley because he's dying too. You know, they always want donations. And by the way, you too can donate to my Patreon and my PayPal, because here we tell people the truth. And you know, I'm not going to get discouraged, right? I told myself I'm not going to get discouraged about the way the world works. But it does seem funny to me that these guys that just make up shit, lie, tell totally bold-faced lies, lie through their teeth, they get rewarded, right? They get $50,000 or $60,000 worth of PayPal donations. And meanwhile, it's not just me. There are other channels, there are other news outlets, call them journalists, whatever, content creators that are out there with facts in hand, with actual evidence, showing people the truth. And what do we get? Well, we get some good people that donate, but not nearly as much as the fraudsters get. They get the big bucks, and I get the pennies. But I'm okay with that because I can sleep at night and I can live with what I do, which is to try to bring people the truth. All I can do is do my best to do that. Greetings and salutations, friends, and welcome back. For today, we get a double shot of Truth Seekers. You know, some days I struggle for enough content to fill a show, to do a really good job, and just even to have enough things to say, enough things to talk about to fill a show. But today is quite different. Uh, there is a lot of breaking information, and that sort of gets me excited enough to do not one, but two shows today covering this topic. Earlier today, I produced a show detailing an insider's view into the lies and fraud and fakery of Emery Smith. Now, I should say that even in the few short hours since that broadcast, my inbox has filled up with people, some of which I'm sure are big supporters of Emery Smith. And we played a gentleman's video who said that his daughter dated Emery Smith for 4 years. They were living together as well. I checked into this gentleman before using him as a source and playing his testimony, and was satisfied that he is who he said he was. And yes, his daughter did indeed date Emery Smith and live with him for several years. I consider him a good source. I'm sorry if you don't. These people that are attacking him, and by extension attacking me for sharing his information, have not done that vetting, have not made phone calls to check into this person as I did earlier today. I don't know him, but I know several people who do know him, just from sort of the, UFO conspiracy land conventions and things. He's been at some and has been an interested party into these subjects for many years. This is how he got involved with Emery Smith to begin with. In the video, this gentleman details a great deal of fakery, fraudery, and bullshittery perpetrated by Emery Smith. But he also implicates David Wilcock for just straight making fake shit up about events in Emery Smith's life. I suppose in order to garner sympathy for Emery Smith and get people to donate money based on these fantastical claims that David Wilcock was making about Emery Smith. Also leaked by this gentleman is the fact that David Wilcock has cited a secret government insider known as Paul in talks, in videos, in appearances. He has talked about this Paul. Paul is Emery Smith. Why he would use Emery Smith to be two separate people is beyond me. But that's David Wilcock, dumbass extraordinaire, fake psychic, fake Edgar Casey, fake teeth motherfucker. That's David Wilcock. And of course, he's going to milk a fake source for all it's worth. Not only did he milk the fake source of Emery Smith, but he decided to make Emery Smith a whole different fake insider for himself. And this was revealed to us by this gentleman who created these videos, Emery Smith Exposed. His YouTube channel is Points on the Curve. I decided that, it's pretty rare, actually, that I have a bigger bullhorn than another content creator, and I happen to have a bigger bullhorn than this gentleman. He's trying to get this information out there to the public, so we here decided that we were going to basically have a watch party and play his first video and talk about the information that he presents. And it's very compelling, friends. And for those idiots who emailed me earlier today saying, you don't even know if this guy is who he says he is. He probably doesn't even know Emery Smith. He didn't know Emery Smith. He's just some guy that doesn't like Emery Smith, and he's just making all this. No, he's not just some guy. It's verified. He had a relationship for many years with Emery Smith. His daughter lived with Emery Smith. I would think that he's a trustworthy source about these events. And for those stupid people who think that I just accept a source and go, okay, let's run with this. We don't know if this guy really knew Emery Smith. I checked, okay? I checked the best I could, and I found several pieces of supportive evidence that proved that he is who he says he is. But further, in his video, he shares a Dropbox link with a great deal of supportive evidence for all that he is talking about, all that he is claiming. And in that Dropbox, there's actually a video of him and his wife arguing with a drunk Emery Smith. And you see them on the camera together. So yeah, the person is who he says he was. But for the benefit of stupid people, we are going to share the video from his Dropbox link just so that people know, that I didn't just accept any source, and that this gentleman indeed knew Emery Smith. And this is the Dropbox with all these documents. Basically, this is a great data drop on Emery Smith. I'm going to copy and paste. I'm going to copy and paste the link into the live chat. So if you'd like to, you can have access to this tremendous data drop, proving what this gentleman says is factually, more or less, factually correct. And he has this data that he can, include. And here's a video. There's a video of him arguing with the drunken Emery Smith. And you see the gentleman from the video we played in this video. So no, I didn't just accept any source and run with it. This person is who he says he is.
They stole our money, Olivia.
Yeah. God, what a fucking moron.
Are you nuts?
What are you
Ow.
doing? You took our money.
Hey, Emery,
You
get
took it-
this
you took
on
it- you
get
took
this
it.
on camera.
You took
Hey, Emery, did you not go to the Boulder court and tell them I was trying to kill you?
Well, yeah, you
listening to everything.
Good.
Good.
I'm glad.
Tell him to
We're
come
glad.
arrest Emery
Tell him
Smith.
to come on
No,
back.
Emery's fucking face right now.
So here is a drunk Emery Smith arguing with the gentleman from the video, which is, I guess, was his father-in-law for some time. In this video we played earlier, please watch the previous video to see that in its entirety. The gentleman here, Emery Smith's, I suppose, former father-in-law, detailed events in Emery Smith's life that were portrayed an entirely different way by Emery Smith and especially David Wilcock. Again, in an effort to create sympathy for Emery Smith and get people to donate money based on fraudulent, fake information that David Wilcock posted on his website. And we're going to go through this. It is a treasure trove of bullshittery from David, the idiot Wilcock. It is a treasure trove of bullshittery. David Wilcock, how do you make this shit up? How do you keep making up such fantastical fake shit? Do you, I often wonder, does he just got flashcards and he just mixes shit up like Deep State, Men in Black, Cabal, Attack, right? That's David Wilcock for you. It is ridiculous. And equally ridiculous, David Wilcock, this fake shit is still up on your website, okay? This fake shit about all these fake events in Emery Smith's life is still on your website, and the donate to the Emery Smith Fund PayPal link is still live on your website, you asshole. We're going to go through that blog post, and we're all going to have a laugh at David Wilcock, the idiot, the fucking fake bullshit king, David Wilcock, you fucking idiot. Busted. We busted you now, you asshole. How many times am I going to prove you a fucking liar, you asshole, David Wilcock? How many times am I going to show the public that you just make up fake shit? How many times do I have to do that? How many times do I have to do that? While you sit in your fucking $1 million man cave mansion, you asshole, collecting money from stupid people who believe you somehow. How can anyone believe you, David Wilcock? How many fucking times are you going to get caught lying just by me, let alone by everybody else that's out there catching you lie through your fake fucking teeth? That's it, Wilcock. We got you lying through your fake fucking teeth. We got you lying through your fake fucking teeth, David Wilcock. And we're going to read it all. And we're going to laugh at you, you fucking lying disinformation asshole. Let's share, shall we? Let's begin, friends, shall we? So we're going to share David Wilcock's blog, and the post is titled, let's see here, ET Insider, Emery Smith hit with massive attack after coming forward. Of course, it was David Wilcock who claimed that Emery Smith autopsied some 3,000 alien bodies. But later, I guess they had a falling out, and Emery Smith said, oh no, he lied about that. It was 3,000 tissue samples, not, I didn't autopsy bodies. No, I just examined tissue samples from aliens. Okay. So here we go. Emery Smith claims to have autopsied about 3,000 different types of ET humanoids. Even he refutes that. David Wilcock, you fucking idiot. Why don't you take that down? When the guy you're talking about in your blog post says, that's not accurate, that's fake, I never said that, David Wilcock made it up, you should probably take that off of your website, you dumbass. The day after we announced his coming forward, he was hit with an attack that landed him in an emergency room. Right before his health collapse, 3 black SUVs followed him and abducted his dog, Raven. Miraculously, Raven was found alive by a good citizen after the perpetrators dumped her off on the highway. However, immediately after the abduction, Emery developed pneumonia-like symptoms with a fever and skyrocketed up to 105. The ER in Palm Springs could not admit him until 7 a.m. the following morning. Okay, his oxygen level went down to 90%, which when coupled with the enormously high fever could easily have killed him. This all screams of foul play. As we were finishing this article, his health slipped and he had to go back to the hospital once again. We are calling for your prayers for his health and safety. Our last article shared the story of a dog's abduction in an update. First of all, David Wilcock, you asshole. Listen, if the deep state or the men in black were out to shut him up, wouldn't they just kill him? Why would they kidnap his fucking dog, you dumbass? Okay, the men in black and 3 SUVs came and they stole his dog from him. That's what you're claiming in this post. You asshole, David Wilcock. What a fucking douchebag you are to go, and you wrote this. It's preserved for all eternity, you dumb dickhead. Jesus Christ, David Wilcock, you dumb dickhead. I can't believe what a fucking dumb dickhead you are. But this is David Wilcock. It's par for the course. These attacks reek of desperation on behalf of the deep state. Why would they try to completely destroy his life if he was simply making up stories, as their paid trolls will assert? I guess I'm one of those paid trolls, right? Because I think he's just making up stories. The guy said he was an astronaut, you asshole. Hey, David Wilcock, you used him as a source, right? For years. Did you vet that he was an astronaut, you asshole? Did you check that he was set to work on the International Space Station, going up in the space shuttle? Did you check on any of that shit, or did you just believe him because you're a fucking dumbass? God, Jesus, I don't know. Look, we got to get through this. This blog post, by the way, is like, I don't even know how many pages. Look, we're only up to this little bit, and it just goes on and on and on. Think about the implications. When you have been lied to for so long, in fact, born into a world where all you've ever known is lies, it can be very difficult when the truth finally appears. Hey, David Wilcock, I'm still waiting for any kind of truth to finally fucking appear from you. You're talking about being born into a world of lies in a blog post that's now proven, factually proven. We busted you, asshole. Factually proven that everything in this blog post of yours is a fucking lie, you asshole. So, first of all, the story about him ending up in the hospital, well, his supposed one-time father-in-law told a completely different story, you asshole, David Wilcock. He wasn't attacked by the men in black or the deep state or the cabal. He had alcohol poisoning and had to be hospitalized because of it, you asshole. And as for the dog got away. Somebody found the dog and they returned the dog to him. how the hell are you seeing some kind of conspiracy with 3 black SUVs following him and stealing his dog over him? What actually happened is he got drunk and let the dog out. One of the neighbors found the dog. The father-in-law went, got the dog with his wife, and returned it to Emery and that gentleman's daughter. He was an eyewitness. He was also an eyewitness to this event that you're trying to claim he was poisoned or he was attacked, which really that gentleman was witness to. No, you asshole, David Wilcock. He had alcohol poisoning. Yeah, he was sick, self-inflicted sick, you asshole. How do you get away with making this shit up? It's ridiculous. There is a level of UFO secrecy that goes far above the U.S. military. The highest generals, even the commander-in-chief of the armed forces, same old shit from David Wilcock. Oh, Eisenhower wanted to invade Area 51. Who's your source on that? Oh, the fake CIA disinformation agent that we busted. You know, the one that Jeremy Corbell and Richard Dolan were trying to peddle as a fucking CIA agent that was never a CIA agent. That's your source on that. There you go, lying again, you dumbass. You make this too easy. Yeah, so he's citing Richard Dolan talking to a fake CIA agent about Eisenhower's wish to invade Area 51 if they try to hide secrets from him. David Wilcock, maybe you should start watching my shows. We busted that fake CIA agent. He was never in the military. He was never a CIA agent. And even Richard Dolan later said, yeah, I don't think he was credible. Yeah, shit, I got caught with another fake fucking story because that's what we all do here in UFO land. We sell fake fucking stories. They all do it. Some more than others, but they all do it. Okay, let's get back to this. Allow yourself to speculate. I don't even want to. I don't even want to go there. Okay, how are we gonna get? David Wilcock has got it. He's got to take 85 pages to explain a 5-minute story. Oh, Emery never intended to come forward. Emery never wanted to come forward about any of his black ops experiences. You asshole, David Wilcock. Here you go lying again. He didn't have any black ops experiences because you can get his DD-214, you asshole, and it proves that he was a low-rank grunt, a nobody in the military. He wasn't special forces. He wasn't black ops. Those are his fantasies or yours. He never was in black ops or anything of importance in the military. He was a fucking nobody grunt, you asshole. And his DD-214 is the factual evidence that proves that. So here's another lie in your fucking bullshit blog. Boy, you should just call it the bullshit blog, David Wilcock, you asshole. Just call it the fucking bullshit blog, because that's what it is. That's what I'm seeing. This is all bullshit. Every line of this is fucking fake. There were threats and attempts on his life since I started anonymously leaking some of his intel. You don't get intel. You get Fantasyland stories from LARPers and fake fucking people whose backgrounds don't add up. You asshole. You don't get intel. You don't have any intel or intelligence of your own, even though you claim to have 180 IQ. And by the way, Einstein only had an IQ of 160. So you're smarter than Einstein, David Wilcock. Then how do you keep fucking up trying to sell these lies? How is it so easy for a dumb slob like me to catch you lying over and over and over? How many times am I going to catch you lying to people and begging for money, you asshole? Here we go. There were threats and attempts on his life. Yeah, right. Yeah. And we heard about the so-called threats and attempts on his life. We heard the real story behind that earlier in our previous episode from this source who knew Emery Smith very well and claimed that he was a drunken mess. And that was the source of a great deal of his problems. It's not the deep state. It's not the men in black. It's that old demon alcohol, right? Apparently, Mr. Smith is such an alcoholic that he needed to get injections or he would have terrible withdrawal symptoms when trying to stop drinking. He'd get the shakes too. That's a bad alcoholism addiction. That's a bad problem. And I pray that he's going to get the help that he needs. But for David Wilcock and him to run around and allow, listen, David Wilcock, if David Wilcock made all this shit up or Emery Smith fed it to him, those are the only two choices, or they both worked in concert to make this shit up, to have something to talk about at conferences, in videos, on radio show appearances. They always got to have some drama to talk about. This is exactly what happened to Pete Peterson after coming forward on Cosmic Disclosure, which much more controversial information. And there's another fake source of David Wilcock. Pete Peterson has been blown out of the water as a complete and total fraud. We've done that for you. We've done that for you, David Wilcock, you asshole. Try harder. Get some real sources. You amateur hour clown shoes fucking bozo at this. Oh, he talks about David Wilcock's break sabotage. This wasn't the Dark Alliance. Always blaming the Dark Alliance. God damn it, David Wilcock. By the way, I'm supposed to be a member of the Dark Alliance. If I am, look, you motherfuckers in the Dark Alliance, you assholes, I didn't get a fucking membership card. I didn't get access to the super secret chat room where we all get together and plot, how we're going to, do Dark Alliance rituals and black magic against these truth-seeking spiritual gurus that were, it's ridiculous. The Dark Alliance is a fucking fantasy made up by Corey Good and David Wilcock to explain away their critics. That's what it's for. It's a propaganda piece. And any asshole that believes in something called the Dark Alliance, you're a fucking idiot. You're a fucking idiot. Go seek counseling for your idiocy. Go try to educate yourself, you dumb shit, for believing this shit. Okay. Emery's home in New Mexico was broken into and everything was stolen or otherwise destroyed. This included large crystals that had been completely smashed into worthless powder on the ground. How do you smash a crystal on the ground into powder? Okay, David Wilcock. Evidence was planted to make it look like the work of drug addicts. Well, there is substantial and supportive proof that Emery Smith was involved in drug dealing in the form of selling psilocybin, right? So it could very well be that some drug addicts that he was involved with broke in his house and did that. Why does it got to be the men in black? But we heard the story from Emery Smith's at one time. I'm just going to keep calling him at one time father-in-law because he doesn't, he doesn't clarify too much in his video, but he was the father of Emery Smith's live-in girlfriend. So yeah, he detailed this event as being a nothing burger. Nothing happened. And the bullet, David Wilcock shows the bullet left on the counter. The same caliber of bullet for two guns, which Emery Smith owned, but had to hawk because he was in such dire straits. He needed the money to live off of. So he was hawking, according to this source we have, everything he owns. And that bullet is the same caliber. So is it just a coincidence, David Wilcock, you fucking dumb schmoo? Is it just a coincidence that the bullet that you say the Cabal, the Men in Black, the Dark Alliance left on his counter is the same caliber of bullet for the guns he just hawked? Is that a coincidence? That's a fake event. These events are fake. Yeah, he went to the hospital, but he wasn't poisoned by the deep state, right? He had alcohol poisoning. That's the truth of that event that you're trying to dramatize into some fucking science fiction fantasy story that you think you live, you asshole. And this event where his house was broken into, again, a big nothing burger. This gentleman paid the last month's rent on that home. I believe that he had intimate knowledge of this so-called event, and he says that David Wilcock made this shit up. So there you go, David Wilcock, you dumb asshole. We got you lying through your fake fucking teeth again. You're lying through your fake fucking teeth, David Wilcock, in this blog post. Wow. Okay, let's see. The reason that this and previous articles have been lengthy is that's what the data will be scrutinized far more in the future if there comes a, what is he talking about? The alliance will make its moves regardless of whether I am involved in any way or not. Their plan does not revolve around me or my work. There's no alliance. You just made that shit up. There's no alliance. Every time this asshole says alliance, he's just making shit up. He doesn't know anything about this shit. This isn't real. It's fucking fantasy land. It's fucking fantasy land. This does seem to be interconnected. I have been telegraphing for 3 days via electronic communication that I was writing the big one, i.e. this article. You're so proud of this work of fiction that you created around fake events of Emery Smith's life that never happened. This is the big one. This is your big one. E.T. Autopsy Insider. Emery Smith hit with massive attack after coming forward. He was hit with a massive hangover, you asshole. He alcohol poisoned himself and had to be hospitalized, you asshole. There was no Dark Alliance. There was no Men in Black. There was no black SUVs following him. Nobody stole his dog, you fucking dummy. Jesus Christ, how do you fucking live with yourself selling this shit? When you go to sleep at night, do you think, man, I did a real good job lying to all those people today? I did a real good job. I had a good day of lies. Oh, and then he takes a moment to beat up Tom DeLonge for the soft disclosure. He's a fake disclosure person. Yeah, that's their narrative. Everybody else wants drip disclosure, not full disclosure. Corey Good says the same horse shit, and it's all fake. It's all horse shit. You might find your way into this through the military. Oh, here we go again. Emery, we're back to where we were. Emery never meant to come forward. So he says here Emery's home in New Mexico was broken into and everything was stolen or otherwise destroyed. Didn't happen. That did not happen. You made that up, or Emery Smith made it up and you just believed him without checking sources or vetting him, which is just as bad, I suppose. Oh, here we go. He starts talking about Paul's intel was mentioned in the case. Remember, this gentleman from the video we played earlier today said that David Wilcock just made up a pseudonym for Emery Smith called Paul. So every time in this article, when he's saying Paul, and most of the article is about Emery Smith, so it seems to reason that this dumbass, Paul is another one of his top secret insiders. But really, it's just Emery Smith telling him different stories, according to this gentleman. So we got you lying again about a fake source, you fucking dumbass. How many times do we got to catch you lie, David Wilcock, you asshole? Some of Paul's intel was mentioned in the case. I profiled his testimony on smart suits, which, as it turns out, are very advanced. I mentioned films like Spider-Man Homecoming, in which Tony Stark character gives Peter Parker a similar suit as himself was using as the Iron Man. Do you watch too much fucking science fiction and superhero movies? Is that your problem, David Wilcock? Is that why you think you have superpowers? Is that it? I'm confused. Only a half hour after this intel was posted, Emery suffered a head-on collision while driving his SUV in Topanga, California. The timing was very suspicious, to say the least. No. Here's where you're lying again. Emery Smith got in a vehicle accident while driving drunk. And there is ample and supportive evidence to prove that. You dumbass. Another lie in your blog. Another lie in your blog. How many times are you going to lie in one blog? Well, the blog post is like 80 pages long. Okay, here's the bullet left for him. After I leaked his intel, and David Wilcock's brake sabotage wasn't the Dark Alliance. His house was burglarized to the bare walls. No, that didn't happen. You made that shit up, or Emery Smith made that shit up. The cabal is on the verge of mass public exposure. I am one of the people covering that story with intel most others don't have. You don't have intel. You have Fantasyland stories that you just fucking pull out of thin air. You don't have any intel. If you did, then some of this shit would end up being real. And 20 years you've been doing this, David Wilcock, and none of this shit is real. And people keep catching you lying over and over and over again, catching you making fake shit up. This seems to be interconnected. I went into more detail and the threats. Oh, I'm sorry, friends. I just can't even. One of our top insiders was almost killed just a half hour after we released part 2. Oh my God. He's claiming people were. Paul was nearly killed in a head-on collision. That wasn't Paul. That was Emery Smith driving drunk. This is particularly significant because we had released more of his highly sensitive intel in that same. Again, he keeps using these terms: intel, briefings. No, you asshole. And here's supposed pictures of Emery Smith's house being burglarized. Oh, and here's the vehicle accident, which, by the way, right? That was not Paul. That was Emery Smith driving drunk. That's what caused this very disturbing vehicle accident. And how do you turn, and the Range Rover, right? We heard that gentleman mention Emery Smith drove a Range Rover. Isn't it a coincidence? This man says that you lie and that Paul doesn't exist and Paul is Emery Smith. Paul also drives a Range Rover, a very expensive car, by the way. And here, I don't mean to laugh. That's terrible if somebody gets in a big car accident like that. Paul's body collided with the windshield, leaving visible cracks, as you can see here. Blood was found on the window and the driver's side door. Lastly, he escaped with whiplash and a concussion, and nothing more severe than the final loss of everything he owned. Since then, we have taken elaborate precautions to ensure that his valuable information can never be lost. We still have more to say on that soon enough. Elaborate precautions meant getting him to come forward. Oh, geez Christ. So he talks about Emery and him filming his testimony. It just goes on and on. I'm trying to find, though, there's a PayPal donate button. Oh, proof of the dog's abduction. No, you asshole. This isn't proof of the dog's abduction. This is proof that somebody found a lost dog. You fucking dumbass. How do you get away with this? This is proof of the dog's abduction. We heard this gentleman in the video earlier today say it's a nothing burger. The dog got out because Emery was drunk. The dog got out, got lost. One of the neighbors found the dog. Him and his wife went and got the dog and returned it to Emery Smith. There's no cabal here. There's no black men, there's no men in black and black SUVs. And why the hell would you steal somebody's dog if you were a government agent anyway? This makes absolutely no sense. But this is proof to idiot David Wilcock, the guy with the 180 IQ. And I got to tell you, for having a 180 IQ, I would think he would be a better liar. Many things were left out of the update for Emery's own safety. It was a combined operation. What happened to the dog was only part of it. Simply put, he was already in the emergency room by the time I posted proof of his dog's abduction. You didn't post proof of his dog's abduction. You posted proof that somebody found a lost dog. You asshole. You never posted any proof that the men in black. Come on, David Wilcock. Up your game. I challenge you. Where is the proof that the men in black stole Emery Smith's dog? You asshole. Nobody stole his dog. The dog got out because he was drunk. You fucking asshole. This is David Wilcock. He'll take anything that he thinks he can use and he just twists the facts, pepper it with a bunch of lies, really do it up. Make this science fiction Buck Rogers, he's a government insider story shit seem legitimate, right? It's ridiculous. I don't want to keep saying ridiculous. I got to stop saying ridiculous so much when it comes to these clowns. Whoever did this may have hoped that the addict's shock of having his dog stolen would further weaken his health and cause him to actually die. One possibility, based on things Pete Peterson has told me, is that Emery was shot with an ice dart by one of the SUVs that went by before grabbing his dog. Holy shit, the men in black Shot him with an ice dart. What was in that ice dart? Well, gee, this is what David Wilcock says. This might not feel like more than a bug bite, but it could easily be loaded with viruses and or pathogens that could make you develop a sudden huge fever. Okay, look how fantastical this is. Where the hell is he getting this shit? This is some crazy speculation. Maybe the men in black shot him with a dart that had a pathogen in it while they were going to steal his dog. Maybe that's what happened. Yeah, sounds good. He wrote this shit out. Does he proofread this after he fucking writes this shit? How do you not read this and say, this sounds too crazy, I'm going to take those lines out? Not David Wilcock, because nothing is too fantastical a lie for David Wilcock. Nothing, friends. There is no fantastical lie too big for this asshole to tell. And it's all documented. You wrote this in a blog, you asshole. It's going to be here forever. And my proof that it's all lies is going to be here forever. So who wins this game? David Wilcock, you dumbass. Jesus Christ. Sad but true that even with all this said, there are people who still deny any of this actually happened. Yeah, do you mean like the eyewitness that was there for most of these events who says you're full of shit, whose video we played earlier? He denies, and he's an eyewitness. He was actually there during these events. Were you there, David Wilcock? Because he was, and he says you're full of shit. And by the way, so do I. But now we have more substantial proof that you're full of shit. Another time that we've busted David Wilcock lying through his fake fucking teeth. He's lying through his fake fucking teeth on a public blog post. You asshole. No level of proof will stop the paid trolls from making such accusations, but my goal here is to reach the real people who might be on the fence. Oh boy, I guess I'm one of those. David Wilcock, I'm not a paid troll. And by the way, I just want to make a quick sort of disclaimer statement. The purpose of this video is not to slander, intimidate, harass, or damage the reputation of anyone. The purpose of this video is to educate the public on just how easily these people in the so-called consciousness or UFO community use deception and fake stories and try to profit from them. That is my purpose here, to show people that these people lie through their teeth and then they ask you for money, right? So all of this stuff is designed to make people feel sorry for Emery Smith, right? And after this big buildup, oh, look, he's got a hospital bracelet. It must be true, right? And here's showing some of his records. Like, okay, he had a blood test while he was there. I'm trying to see what they have a list of what medications he was given, because one of them might be for alcohol poisoning. I'm going to look that up. Update while writing. He has to go back. As I was writing this update, he had gotten to the point, Emery texted me and said his condition has worsened again and he is going back in. Oh, and here's a video that he took down. Oh no, Gaia took it back because Gaia and David Wilcock are on the outs. And here David Wilcock, pretty ballsy. We will not be intimidated. David Wilcock, it's easy for you to say you're not going to be intimidated when you're making up fake shit like fake government agents, fake men in black. I have a feeling if you had to face a real federal agent that was coming after you, you would run like a bitch, okay? But since these are fake, yeah, I'm not going to be intimidated by these attacks because they're fake attacks, you asshole. None of this is real. The gentleman on the video that we played in our previous episode here detailed point by point that all the shit that you wrote in this blog is fake. It never happened. None of that ever happened. Most of it was just Emery Smith having alcohol-related issues, car accidents, letting his dog out. got drunk and let his dog go and get killed on a highway. All of these things were related to his alcoholism. And here we see, once again, David Wilcock taking advantage of somebody that has issues. Just as he took advantage of Pete Peterson, who was a senile old man, here, apparently, he's taking advantage of a man with very, very severe alcohol-related issues. And David Wilcock, if this is how you use your friends, I would hate to see what you do to your enemies, really. Normally, the deep state would simply roll out a whole mess of troll videos trying to discredit Emery and make him look bad for whatever reason. He deserves to look bad from what I've seen. Doesn't seem like a very trustworthy or credible individual. Certainly not somebody whose crazy, fantastical stories we should just believe based on his past criminal activity that's been proven. I don't think he's somebody that can be trusted. And it's not trolling if people are out there telling people the truth about this shit. So, yeah, that's David Wilcock. Label anybody opposed. Okay, anybody opposed is, a big problem. I'm trying to find the PayPal link. It's here somewhere. I'm sorry, friends. I'm a little bit visually impaired, so. Oh, click here to donate to the Emery Smith Survival Fund. What are we trying to help him survive? His alcohol benders? Because that's what all this was related to, according to an eyewitness that was there at these events. David Wilcock, you asshole. And here is another time where you tell a whole bunch of fantastical stories and then want people to donate money to one of your friends. And by the way, the link is still live. People are still donating, I guess, to Emery Smith. The gentleman in the video we played earlier said that he raised between $50,000 and $60,000 through this PayPal scam. It's a scam. If none of those events happened and you're asking people to donate money based on those events, it's a scam. I'll say it again. This is fraud, David Wilcock. This is fraud. Now, I don't know what's going to happen next, but Mr. Wilcock has just a few plays here. He can ignore this and hope it'll go away, but it won't. Or he can address it. He can apologize. He can take that blog post full of lies down from his website. But will he? I don't think he will. I don't think he's going to do that. I don't think that he's going to do that. I think that he's going to double down. And it'll be that gentleman who was an eyewitness is a member of the Dark Alliance and the Deep State. Isn't it funny how the Dark Alliance membership keeps growing as the critics against these fake fraud fairy tale hucksters increases? You know, I've seen somebody come literally out of nowhere. Nobody knew them in the UFO community and the consciousness, whatever you want to call it, conspiracy land. And within making a few videos, they were suddenly a member of the Dark Alliance, according to David Wilcock, Corey Good, and their ridiculous narrative. And it's all an attempt to convince their followers that they're somebody special. They get intel. They don't get intel. They get fantasies. They get, they get ideas from Stargate and from Star Trek and run with bullshit fake stories. And people, yeah, I gotta say, good for them though, because people throw money at them for this fake shit. People want to believe it so desperately that they are willing to just forget about discernment, forget about logic, common sense, facts, or evidence, and just believe an asshole like David Wilcock. David Wilcock, once again, we busted you lying through your fake fucking teeth. You lie through your fake fucking teeth to people. Every time that you appear somewhere, you lie through your fake fucking teeth. Every time you write a blog post, you lie through your fake fucking teeth. It's ridiculous that you get allowed to do this. When is law enforcement going to step in and do something about what you do? When is that going to happen? Is it legal for you to just write a blog post full of totally fake, made up stories about somebody in an attempt to garner sympathy for them and then solicit donations for that person based on 10 pages of lies and events that never actually happened? Is that legal? I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. Doesn't seem like it should be to me. It's certainly not ethical. It's certainly not the moral thing to do. And by the way, David Wilcock, you asshole, you have a spiritual foundation. I don't understand somebody that's supposed to be a spiritual guru lying through his fake fucking teeth so much. You want to be a spiritual guru? Here's how you start. Stop lying through your fake fucking teeth for a living. Go get an honest job, right? You got money. Go help the poor or something. Take a break from lying to people for a while. See what that does to your soul. Maybe you'll feel better about yourself, knowing that you don't have to wake up every day and make up more fake stories to sell stupid people. Maybe that would improve your mental clarity, David Wilcock. Maybe that would improve your karma, and you'd be able to win at something besides lying and making up fake shit. Maybe you ought to look into that. A spiritual guru who gets caught lying to people every time he opens his fucking mouth is not a spiritual guru. And any of you assholes stupid enough to believe anything coming out of this jackoff's mouth deserve to get conned. I can't help you if you're fucking stupid enough to believe him. How many times do I have to show you that all David Wilcock does is make up fake shit and lie to people before it sinks in and these people stop sending him money for fake shit? But this is where we're at in life. And people who tell the truth or try to tell the look, you can cover these strange subjects and these strange stories and not just lie to people. You can say, I don't know if this is real. You don't have to present everything as factual, but see, there's not much money in that. There's much more money in going, I talk to aliens. Really, I do. I don't have any proof that I talk to aliens. And again, on this subject of Emery Smith, why has he been getting a pass? He got a pass. And I think the reason may be that he comes across as much more genuine. And at least I've heard he's a little bit nicer to people when he meets them. He is not very accessible. If you want to ask him questions, you got to pay, right? Take part in my webinar where I'll be answering questions. It only costs $50. You too can get the disclosure truth about those aliens. Just buy my webinar for $50, and then you can ask me some questions. Bullshit. And, as far as his education goes, I'm only able to verify that Emery Smith went to high school. Can't find proof of any other additional education. That's not to say it doesn't exist. Maybe I'm a terrible researcher and I could not find it, but it does exist. I don't know. But one thing that I do know for certain is that you don't get to be a NASA astronaut if all you did was go to high school. You're going to need a college degree to be a NASA astronaut, Emery Smith, you dumbass. Okay, so we're going to turn our attention to the live chat. Rodrigo, it boggles the mind how people can't see through Wilcock's BS. Unbelievable. Yeah, or they just want to believe in this shit so much that they're willing to, give him a pass. Oh, maybe he lied about that, but this is probably real. I've heard people tell me that. Oh, well, yeah, he lied about the Pete Peterson GoFundMe, but, that doesn't mean that all the stuff he talks about aliens isn't true. Yeah, it does. Once a liar, always a liar. David Wilcock is a fucking liar. And I got to say it one more time. He lies through his fake fucking teeth. Yeah, haven't they seen John Wick? Don't mess with a man's dog. I've never seen John Wick, but I've heard that reference, don't mess with a man's dog, from John Wick. I heard it's great. I just haven't gotten a chance to experience that whole series. But I'm going to binge watch that soon. It's on my list. So, friends, any questions or comments for me, please do put them in all caps. And, today's funny because I've never done 2 shows in one day, but I thought I'd rather get this all out in one shot. Let's cover this. And we're calling this Donate Gate. And here's why. David Wilcock has an entire page of fake stories about Emery Smith that never happened, and we have a source that's an eyewitness. By the way, I'm reaching out to him. We're going to try to interview him here live on our show. I'm hopeful that he will participate. Seems like a good person, somebody that I want to know more, and somebody that I want to pick that guy's brain and see what else he knows. Apparently, as you go on in that series, and we're going to do that, he's claiming that Emery Smith was involved in drug dealing, selling psilocybin and other things. And also in his Dropbox, there is a story about a Gaia director getting caught in Emery Smith's Range Rover with mushrooms in the car. So that's interesting. And maybe that would explain some of the behavior we see with some of these cosmic con artists, that they're running around doing mushrooms and psilocybin and smoking and drinking so much that they see aliens. I don't know. We're going to wrap things up here. Hopefully, I'm trying to find a file here. Okay. Yeah, so we're going to wrap things up here, friends. One second. Okay. Nicholas Krupos, we are for the time being as Santa Cruz mounts about my backyard. Yeah, I hope that you're going to stay safe and out of the line of that fires and the trouble, Nicholas Krupos. I wish you the very best. I do. So, friends, I don't know what to say except, I had a good day, because any day when I can catch David Wilcock lying through his fake fucking teeth is a good day. It's just a good day for me. Call me crazy, but, and I don't mean just catch him. I mean, this is a really great example of David Wilcock telling lies and begging people for money again. How many times, David Wilcock, are we going to catch you telling people lies and begging for money donations? I'd like to know. Why do I got to keep doing this shit? Why do I got to keep doing this shit? But, it is what it is, friends. Somebody's got to do it. And if no one else is going to, then let it be me. People deserve to have their eyes open to these con man cosmic assholes out there telling alien fantasies and claiming they're real stories and taking money from people for it. Something should be done. I really think that we need new legislation passed to prevent these kind of grifts and cons from taking advantage of people. But I can only do what I can do. And, today I think we did a public service. We did a good thing by letting people know, don't donate to this, because this is all, everything in this blog that, everything in the blog that goes before I suppose, the pitch for donate to Emery Smith Survival Fund is a lie. People should know that before feeling bad for poor Emery Smith and donating money to him. And David Wilcock, if you had a conscience, if you weren't just a deplorable, despicable individual, right? If you were a decent person, you would address this, you would make a public statement, you would apologize for misleading so many people and having, what was it that gentleman said? $50,000 to $60,000 in donations for Emery Smith based on you begging for money for your friend. And in closing, Emery Smith, I'm going to ask you to do the right thing and give everybody a refund. But based on all I've heard about the way you handle your finances, geez, you've been evicted, right? Your credit is in the shitter. You can't even rent an apartment. So do I think you're suddenly just going to grow a conscience, have a heart and give all these people their $50,000 to $60,000 back for donating to your fake survival fund? No, I don't think you're ever going to give the money back. I don't think that you're going to be man enough to even address this or talk about it. You're just going to try to roll on and hope that you have a bigger megaphone than me, so people aren't going to hear about this. But they will, Emery Smith. And I'm asking everyone, if you see Emery Smith at a conference, if you attend one of his webinars that you have to pay $50 for, or David Wilcock, right? Ask them about the Emery Smith Survival Fund Donate Gate. Ask them why they knowingly and willingly and deliberately told people a bunch of fabricated stories and then asked for PayPal donations based on those fabricated fake stories for a survival fund for Emery Smith. People, they need to answer people's questions about this. They need to be men and stand up and do the right thing. Do I think they will? Fuck no! They're going to keep the money and laugh at you stupid people that were dumb enough to donate to their con. But one can hope, can't we? One can hope. Well, friends, I'm just going to check in with the live chat real quick. And we will be wrapping things up here. So, friends, until next time, I'm Steve Cambion. Good night, and God bless.